Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Elevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. I'm Joe Everett, bringing you today's farm news. Well, we had some delays in the harvest progress from the rains over the weekend. Here on our farm, we were able to get back shelling corn yesterday afternoon. Moisture hanging on, though, coming in around 17.5%. We're looking forward to get back in the fields today, but there could be some delays as some weather moves through some parts of the Buckeye State. We'll have a full forecast update for you shortly to see what you can expect today and heading into the rest of the week. Some quick calendar reminders. Powered by Soy Biodiesel, the Ohio AgNet team will join Ohio State CFAEC students for the Planting Professionals Etiquette Dinner. Sponsored by the Ohio Soybean Council, this event is a great opportunity for students to sharpen professional skills and connect with leaders in agriculture. Then tomorrow we'll be visiting with the folks from Farm Credit for our monthly check-in. Well, the United States could soon be buying beef from Argentina. Over the weekend, President Donald Trump told reporters on Air Force One that importing some Argentinian beef might help bring down prices here at home. Beef prices in the United States have stayed stubbornly high thanks to drought and fewer imports from Mexico, partly because of the New World screwworm issue. The Associated Press says this move is part of the president's push to rein in inflation. Bloomberg adds that beef is one area where those efforts haven't had much success so far. There are no details yet on how this deal would work, but it is clear that the administration is looking for ways to cool off the meat case at your local grocery store. Well, the United States and China are back at the table this week, working to keep another trade fight from heating up. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says he'll meet with the Chinese Vice Premier to try to stop a new round of tariffs from taking effect. The two have already spoke late last week in what Bessent described as frank and detailed talks about trade. For now, there's a temporary trade truce in place, but the deal runs out November 10th. President Donald Trump has threatened to slap an additional 100% tariff on Chinese imports after Beijing hinted it could limit exports of rare earth materials. When asked if that kind of tariff could last, the president said, "It is not sustainable, but that's what the number is because they forced me to do that." So both sides will be under pressure this week to strike a deal before that truce runs out. Stay tuned. We'll be back with today's weather next here on the Ohio AgNet.
For farmers, it can be a challenge to navigate life from time to time, and agriculture can magnify those moments. Hi, I am Nathan Brown, a Highland County farmer and a member of the Ohio Farm Bureau Board of Trustees. Farmers, you are not alone. Help is available if you're dealing with stresses of farming. If you or someone you know is struggling with stress, text 4HOPE to 741-741 or visit go.osu.edu/agcrisis. A message from the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation.
Here's farmer and businessman James Wood.
We farm about 3,500 acres. There's pipelines everywhere. The contractor working on my property did not have the lines located before he began work, and it resulted on a strike on a natural gas pipeline. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it could have been much worse.
Never assume the location or depth of underground lines. Always call 811 or visit clickbeforeyoudig.com before you start work. A message from the Pipeline Operators for Ag Safety campaign.
You're tuning in on the Ohio AgNet. Today's weather brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Cloud cover pushing into Ohio here for your Tuesday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that forecast update. An upper level low trying to work through the Great Lakes region here this morning. We saw clouds increase overnight, and I think we'll have to deal with some spits and sprinkles until probably early to mid-afternoon. Anywhere from a few hundreds to a few tenths, that is all. Coverage about 60% of the state. That is going to be a harbinger of things to come, because where that shower action is coming from is not necessarily the low itself. It's not the front. It's this cold air coming down and just wringing out moisture that's stuck in the atmosphere. And that's going to be the story for tomorrow and for Thursday as well. Strong northwest flow coming across the Great Lakes. A lot of clouds in here, and I can't rule out spits and sprinkles from I-70 northward at least overnight to tonight into tomorrow, but maybe even again on Thursday. Finally getting better sunshine potential in as we finish the week on Friday. Now, I do need to make this disclaimer. I think it's north versus south here. South of I-70 for the next few days, you may miss out. Well, on precipitation, it's a definite chance to miss out, especially tomorrow and Thursday. And I think you get less cloud cover down south of I-70 for Wednesday, Thursday, and into early Friday as well. So north versus south here, this is where the Great Lakes really impact most of our weather. Now we get into the late week. Again, warming up Friday, getting some sunshine in here. Saturday looks nice as well. Overnight Saturday night through Sunday, scattered rain showers, and it's leading to a stormy start to next week as well. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Well, with the USDA's weekly crop products report still on pause due to the government shutdown, we again turned to Ohio farmers directly for an update this past week. On Facebook, we asked followers to react with emojis to share how far along they are this harvest season on their farms. This update is brought to you by Unleaded 88. Save on fuel with the blue handle. Fill up with Unleaded 88. Discover more at ohiocornandwheat.org. Well, about 42% said they are done with soybeans and have at least 25% of the corn harvested. The same amount, 42%, reported soybeans are done and at least 50% of the corn has been harvested. Roughly 8% are still in soybeans with no corn started yet. Around 6% said they are completely finished with both corn and soybeans. 0% reported being done with soybeans with at least 75% of the corn harvested. To learn more, you can find this today at ohioagnet.com. Well, our own Joel Panorwood caught up with the Ohio Director of Agriculture, Brian Baldridge. Here's a clip.
Harvest continues to roll along. Federal government might not know what they're doing, but farmers in the field do. Comments from the state level as you're seeing things across Ohio.
Obviously, keeping in touch with the farmers. We're done down in Adams County with soybean harvest. We're waiting probably another week to roll into corn, but we've had some drought roll in there during the tail end of our growing season. I think the message is, one more rain or a couple more sprinkles, drinks on our crops could have been a bumper. But what I've heard is kind of a pleasantly surprised. There's a lot of concern as far as our yield, but folks are rolling through that, and we're excited to hear where things are at. And then, we're also concerned about where our markets are at, and that's a big conversation for all of us. A lot of concerns, and we'll keep an eye on that. And to your point, hopefully a lot of work will be done in Washington on that issue.
As Director of Agriculture, you keeping an eye on what is happening at the federal level, or just playing it by ear? Yeah,
we're heavily engaged. Our national associations, that represents all 50 of the departments of agriculture all across the state. Heavily engaged. We are constantly in contact with them, working with them, listening, and then we're doing our own work as far as staying in contact with our members of Congress from Ohio, our federal partners, and making sure we're telling the ag story on behalf of the agricultural community, which is our number one industry, food and ag, $124 billion industry here in Ohio.
To hear more from that conversation, you can find that today on this week's podcast at ohioagnet.com. Well, a new report from Mizuho Investment Bank said potash and phosphate fell last week, while nitrogen was mostly unchanged. The price of potash in New Orleans fell about 1.5% to $328 per ton, while Midwest cost declined 0.7% to $373 a ton. A report said phosphate prices dropped 0.3% to $851 a ton. Phosphate affordability is the lowest level since 2008 and continues to raise concerns about demand referral and destruction. Mizuho said nitrogen prices were mostly unchanged last week at about $376 a ton in New Orleans and $435 per ton in the Midwest. Supply disruptions and delays in capabilities coming online have led to higher ammonia prices, with the benchmark Tampa price recently settled up $40 in October, following a $53 per metric ton increase in September, Mizuho said in its report. Despite some volatility and recent declines, overall fertilizer prices are still considered high compared to long-term averages. Well, the farm economy is threatening the livelihoods of families across the country. American Farm Bureau Federation President Zippy Duvall tells us survival could mean temporary federal assistance.
Across the country, farms are disappearing as families close the gates on farms tended to by their parents, grandparents, and generations before them. Prices paid for crops have fallen off the cliff since 2022, and U.S. agriculture has experienced a trade deficit during the same period of time. Farmers need a lifeline. We're urging leaders to authorize bridge payments for farmers before the end of 2025. This assistance must be broad enough to ensure farmers of all sizes and products can survive to see another season. While emergency aid will help temporarily ease the burden facing farmers, only long-term solutions will help improve the economic conditions in rural America. That includes fair trade agreements, year-round renewable fuels, and protecting interstate commerce, just to name a few.
Again, that was Zippy Duvall, American Farm Bureau Federation President. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the grain analysis and your overnight markets after this.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals, your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
Nearly 90% of farmers say that financial worries, constantly changing market conditions, and other uncontrollable variables take a toll on their mental well-being. Add in the weather and family dynamics, well, it's a lot to handle alone. But did you know farmers and their families can receive free confidential services from licensed professionals? Support is available 24/7 to help with the challenges you face. Look for Farm Family Wellness Alliance under the Resources tab at farmfoundation.org. Take care of yourself. Your well-being matters.
It's now time for today's market analysis, which is brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets moved higher yesterday, led by soybeans with a double-digit gain. Corn and wheat could not come along for the ride, though. Corn was choppy at best, and wheat really had trouble outside of the spring Minneapolis wheat. Now, there was some hope for China soy purchases from the U.S. via President Trump, but the talking points yesterday, what can Trump offer the Chinese that will make them restart soybeans? It's not going to be a phase one type of deal between the U.S. and China. That's not even being considered right now. Currently, the U.S. has lost about 450 million bushels worth of demand. If China secured 7 to 9 million metric tons of soybeans like it did last year from December onward, the soy export estimate would still have to drop to 1.45 billion bushels. That's down 235 million from the current WASDE forecast. In other words, we are going to be looking at being flush with supply with not any further demand than what we had last year, and that's tough to see. But there was hope yesterday. Trump tweets, headlines. Trump and Xi are still meeting on the sidelines of the APEC. Their trade teams are talking here this week. Again, call me skeptical at this point in time. The U.S. did export 51.9 million bushels of corn in the week ending October 16th, 54.2 million bushels of beans, 17.6 million bushels of wheat. That is the weekly export inspections report. That's the one report we are still getting right now. Not much else flowing out of the U.S. government. And sources are telling us, some deep in USDA sources, at least at the county by county level, telling us that there's an expectation of a protracted shutdown, may not be a quick fix here, and that USDA employees are gearing up for that in the wake of not getting paychecks probably again here in the next couple of weeks. So all of those stories, why was there so much hopium yesterday? Again, it's centered on Trump and China. I don't see a lot changing there. I'm Ryan Martin.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. Now let's take a look at your overnight trade brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. December corn, 423 3/4, up a half. March corn, 437 1/2, up a half. As we turn to soybeans, November, 1034 1/2, up 2 3/4. January soybeans, 1052 3/4, up 2 3/4. And December wheat, 505 1/4, up a half. As we look to livestock from yesterday's close, October live cattle, 241.85, up $1.60. December live cattle, 243.65, up $1.82. December lean hogs, 82.07, down 30 cents. February lean hogs, 84.72, down a nickel. November feeder cattle, 372.67, up 97 cents. January feeder cattle, 369.17, down 12 cents. And November class 3 milk, 17.03, up a penny. For more farm news, you can find that at ohioagnet.com. Thanks for joining us, and continue to be safe out there this harvest season. I'm Joe Everett, and this is the Ohio AgNet